Hello, welcome to Tweet Talk Music Edition. I'm Russell, and today we're going to get right to it. I'll be talking about my personal favorite band of all time, Depeche Mode. They have a brand new album out. It's called Memento Moir. This is the first album they've had out in 6 very long years. The last album they had was called Spirit. Not my favorite album of all. Probably my least favorite album of theirs, to be honest. So I was a little bit trepidatious when this came out, but I'm glad we finally got some new material. I was afraid that was going to be their last album. Both albums were produced by John Ford. Evidently, he's some of a legend in England as a producer. He produced Florence and the Machine and Arctic Monkeys, among others. And my big question is, what do those bands have in common with Depeche Mode? Nothing. I just don't feel like he's the right producer for them at all. They're mostly guitar driven and whatnot. He seems to be very fond of minimalism to the point of there's almost nothing happening, and that's often the case. I'll get my big criticisms out of the way first of this album. I do like it overall. It is a very good album, especially compared to the last 2 albums. If you've never heard Depeche Mode, just be aware they're an English band, started back in 1980, a very long time ago, and they basically pioneered electronics. Now, there have been other electronic bands along before them, but they really pushed the boundaries forward, almost being exclusively electronic the first 2 albums, and just occasionally brought in guitars until the more recent albums when they brought in a lot more guitar, because the songwriter Martin Gore is actually more of a guitar player than a keyboard player, but they still like to use the electronics. But anyway, I feel like they definitely need a better producer overall. Let's just get the criticisms out of the way first. I feel like my big complaint, almost every song, so I'll just say it, and that way I'll have to keep repeating myself, is that the production is lagging in most of the songs. They could use a lot more just layers. That's what they're known for in the past. Layers of sounds. And whereas this is much more stripped down, which, I'm not saying it's a wrong approach for some bands. That's great. Or at least an occasional song be stripped down. That's fine. But this is a 12-song long album. 50 minutes long. After a while, it gets a little tiresome. It's funny, by the 10th song, that was my big feeling. Is like, wow, this is all starting to sound a little the same. And my brother happened to be hearing it as well. He said the same thing almost at the same time that I was thinking it. By the 10th song, it was like, man, this is all kind of starting to sound the same a bit. Now, I will say a positive note for the overall album. The songs are top notch in terms of the writing. Very few complaints. Definitely a marked improvement over the last album, for the last 2 albums, frankly. This is one of their best, really, in years. I liked that album called Sounds of the Universe from 2009. I quite like that album. I feel like that had a lot more variety. That's another thing. My big critic, like I said, I already said that. But yeah, this one had a lot more variety. Sounds of the Universe did. But overall, the sound qualities here is very good. The song quality. The singing also so if you don't know, the lead singer is Dave Gahan, and Martin Gore, the lead songwriter, does backing vocals and also occasionally sings lead. Dave has a very deep, beautiful baritone, and Martin has a higher tenor voice. They call him the angelic kind of voice. And but Dave's voice especially, I think, has truly improved over the years as he's moved along. He just keeps maturing, and just so from that point of view, this is a top 10, vocally speaking. Also, just beautiful melodies this time around. Whereas again, I hate to keep saying it, but the last album, it just, I was like, where are the melodies? It was just, I don't know, losing their touch a bit. But this one has just, God, some gorgeous melodies. I'll say which songs are especially good. But that's my overall review of the album. And let's just do a quick track by track go down. I'll try to be fast. My Cosmos Is Mine is the opener. This is a great opener. This is Depeche Mode at their best. Very dark, atmospheric, borderline experimental, which I always applaud. I love it when they get experimental and not just do straight up, song verse, all that kind of stuff. Straighter songs. Has really heavy beat coming in, which is great. It's almost like sort of distorted, looping kinds of electronic beats, and just overall atmosphere, the sounds. It's all very creepy. Some nice textures and synth touches throughout, and the vocals are almost like chanting, sort of almost like modern day chant. If you ever heard like Gregorian chant, it's all very long, drawn out notes, and there's even a part where they start, Martin and Dave together start chanting this sort of no more, no more, no more. It's a really cool moment, very different for them. So I'm always glad to see something new come in. It's one of the reasons I like Depeche Mode, is that their albums, at least in the old days, used to be so different from each other. But so this is a great opener. Now, here's the other thing. In recent years, as some of you may know, but some of you may not, the lead singer Dave Gahan caught what I like to call lead singer ego-itis, where he decided, I want to write songs too, and he's just not a natural songwriter. I hate to say it. And the first song, if you look at the lyrics, they're just, to me, amateurish level, something like maybe a high schooler or middle schooler would write. Sorry, Dave, please forget you ever saw this. But that's just my opinion. Occasionally he does have a really good song. I'd say maybe one per album is actually a decent song, and then the rest, he usually has 3 songs on an album, occasionally more. But usually just one of them is any good. This album, I don't know. Maybe the last song, but anyway, we'll go over that. Wagon Tongue. Now this is a co-write between Dave and Martin, which is they only do occasionally, where they actually write. Basically, Martin wrote the music, I'm assuming, and Dave wrote the words. Musically, it's great. It sounds like classic Depeche Mode, classic synth sound opening up, and just a great song overall. But lyrically and melodically, in terms of the lead song, the singing melody, I assume is all Dave, and just kind of waffles and isn't very effective. So overall, I have to give that maybe a 6.5 out of 10 DMs. First song, by the way, I gave 10 DMs. First song. Next song is Ghost Again, the first single. This is also a very pleasant, strangely uplifting song in a way. It's kind of serious subject matter, but it's still kind of uplifting in their funny kind of way that only Depeche Mode can really do, where they can take a very dark subject matter but still make you feel good. It's got a very lovely pop melody. Once again, the production is very sparse, and just, I could be so much better, I think, with a fuller production. Also, another thing I forgot to mention is overall, the drum sounds on this are very repetitive. For the most part, I hear like a lot of very high pitched snare, and it's overall kind of weak. Whereas when there's a lot of songs that really call for a stronger melody overall. But again, that's just my opinion. But anyway, so I'll put that out of the way. To apologize, I'm getting a phone call. Edit. We're back. Anyway, so as I said, Ghost Again, a pleasant song overall, very good. I'd give it a 9 just because the song is so good, but again, weak production. There's points where it's just the drum and bass, and it's just not that interesting enough to sustain itself. So that's just the way it is. Don't Say You Love Me, number 4. This one's gorgeous. This is definitely a 9. Just a thing. Okay, so Martin's guitar playing in this is beautiful. Has a real 50s vibe overall. The vocals are top notch. There's a beautiful, beautiful long note held by Dave. I listen to this. I'm a trained singer, so I appreciate these things when I hear them. And just overall great melody. I give it an 8.5 at least, or maybe a 9. This has some good sounds, a variety of sounds. So I'm not saying it all sounds exactly the same. It's just the overall flavor and texture. But this does have some nice sounds and synth sounds and some interesting string arrangement stuff that they did. Next one is number 5. This one rocks. Okay, except could have been a stronger beat, a little more, maybe a more distorted bass. But this one is atmosphere and creepy as hell. This one is just, it's almost like a horror movie. I love it. Dave and Martin sing for the most part together, and there's this great sort of, I don't know if it's a harmonic tension. Maybe they put a little bit of distortion in the mix also, but I think it's also just the interplay between their voices. Because of this, I think they're singing unison notes, but Martin's up on the next, octave above. And that can really create an interesting tension and almost bring out a sort of gravelly kind of quality overall. Again, some of that could be also an effect, but still, it just really works. There's so much atmosphere in this, like sort of more ambient sounds. The only thing that keeps it from being a perfect 10 to me is, again, the weaker drums and bass that could have been a lot stronger. This almost reminds me of Skinny Puppy. If you don't know who they are, they're a great industrial band, and that's what they're kind of. This has that sort of sound where they use a lot of very atmospheric, even soft sounds at times, but overall that they always have these really good heavy beats, and this song just cries for that, But anyway, but still, great song. I mean, the lyric is also very creepy. By a Perfect Stranger, it just has that horror kind of vibe. You can imagine what the words are like. Soul With Me. This is Martin's one solo song that he sings, but it's worth it. It's so good. This is maybe my favorite song. Perfect 10. So it starts with gorgeous, really different for them, sort of keyboard intro, like a sort of long vocal, between a vocal and an organ kind of sound. And it has almost nothing to do with the actual song, but it's just this nice sort of melody to bring you in, and then the actual song starts, and Martin's voice just comes in, just beautiful, gorgeous. The melody is as good as it gets. Overall, almost has like it has definitely a 50s vibe. Also has 50s sounding guitar in this one. The overall vibe is very 80s sounding, but even different for them, almost like some other bands that are more maybe poppy, but in a good way. I don't know, this may be exactly the sound, but it just reminds me of like some of the bands like maybe Spandau Ballet or even Duran Duran, but it just in a sort of abstract way. I'm not saying exactly like them, but from that spectrum, shall we say. This is a classic Torch song, and Martin just knocks it out of the park. And even the sparse production, this time I don't mind the sparse production. And here it works. So this one's a perfect 10 to me. I can't think of any way it could really be improved that much. Number 7, real quick. Here we go. Number 7, Caroline's Monkey. This one is it's an interesting lyric. It sounds a funny title, Caroline's Monkey. It's also kind of funny because Martin Gore last year or a year or two brought out his own little solo EP, an instrumental called The Third Chimpanzee. So yeah, I don't know if it's like Monkeys on the Brain or something, but somebody said in one of their reviews that he thinks it's about drugs. So that's probably more what it's really about. Like having a monkey on your back. So it's probably more of a metaphor. But it's still kind of one thing they don't get a lot of credit for is having a huge sense of humor, and this has a sort of almost humorous bent to it. But the thing that keeps me from giving a really good score, even though I like overall, the music is just way too sparse. I mean, it starts and you're barely hearing any melody at all, any turn to the music. And yeah, it builds enough, but it builds somewhat, but this just screams for a good heavy, but not even heavy, more like a bouncy sort of hip-hop beat, and the bass. It's sort of frustrating when you're a longtime fan of somebody and there's other people out there doing it better. Because electronic music has come a long way in the last 40 years, and in some ways I feel like they've now fallen behind the innovators. And I just hope somebody does a good remix of this and gives it more of like the kind of beat it deserves and just overall arrangement. And I think then it would have been a perfect 10. But just because it's so fresh, because it is a good song, but it's just so weak. And I really put a lot of the blame at Richard Butler's feet, because he should know better. He should know it's not right. So I can only give it like a 6.5, maybe 7. One nice little touch is there is they have a nice sort of low where they go sometimes, and that's a nice little throwback to a couple of their songs. If you're a longtime fan, you know which ones I'm talking about. So that's a nice little moment for any longtime fans. That's a nice little callback. Okay, number 8. Okay, number 8. This is written by Dave. So again, amateurish lyrics. Overall, it's decent music and whatnot. He has other people helping him write the music, but it's just not memorable as a song per se. And that's all I can say about it. I give it like a 6. Number 9. Yeah. Okay. Number 9. People Are Good. Now, this sounds like it's supposed to be like a positive title. People are good, right? It's completely the opposite. Once you actually start hearing the lyrics, when you first hear him say, "Keep fooling myself," it's like, yeah, no, we get it. This is a completely sarcastic title. Great song overall. It's not mean, it's just being truthful that people aren't so great. And I think the longer you live, the more you find that out, unfortunately. I mean, I'm not saying people aren't good, but, people can also be really cruel, screw you over, all that kind of thing. Good music. The only thing, again, should have had stronger drums. Anyway, overall I give it actually a 9. I like it. Always You. Another... Let me see. Well, anyway. This is where I said this started out kind of sound the same after a while. But still, overall, very good song. It's just a good song overall. Some nice synth sounds in there too that I noticed, and a really good chorus. I love the chorus on this one. And but yeah, anyway, that's enough of that one. Let's see. Okay, number 11. We're almost done here. Never Let Me Go. This is this one's almost like a throwback to like good sort of 80s post-punk or even a punk itself. There's a really cool guitar lick from Martin that's just almost reminds me of, again, like almost punk or even glam that preceded the punk rock movement. Really good driving overall rhythm and stuff. And love this is a very urgent sounding song. The melody and everything is very urgent and really strong. It's a strong way to go. And then we get to the final track. I have mixed feelings about this. Musically, I do like it. It's basically very long, drawn out, sort of a soft organ sound with little, bleepy sounds in there in the middle, throughout it. But overall, being carried just by this simple organ chords. The words, though, this time were written by Dave, and from that point of view, I'd say maybe it's his best song on this album, but not the strongest that it could be. But overall, I guess it is a good album closer. And it ends with a nice, like the last 30 seconds, it goes from that sort of soft organ sound to all of a sudden it goes into this sort of noise, almost like distorted strings being scratched and the throbbing kind of bass beat going. And you almost wish that went on longer. Maybe halfway through the song with him still singing, mix that in with the actual song. I think that might have been a good approach. But overall, it's a decent way. I don't mind. I don't mind it. It's unusual to end with a Dave song, but that's the way they chose. But overall, it's a decent. I like the very last maybe 30 seconds. Really cool. Like I said, overall, this is an excellent album. I just wish the production had been stronger, but and more variety in the sounds themselves. If you know anything about Depeche Mode, like say like what they're known for back in the day was that every song sounded so different from each other. If you look at albums like Music for the Masses or Violator or even Exciter, which not a lot of people are crazy about, but that song had variety. Every song had a slightly different approach from the other songs, and that's what makes for interesting music. That's why I don't like much heavy metal, because it all sounds the same. Or rap, most of it, sounds the same. That's what I like about Depeche Mode especially, is that even a lot of electronic bands aren't really that great when it comes to using their imaginations and really getting into experimenting with sounds and whatnot. And that's what I miss the most from the earlier days. But I will say that overall, this is still an excellent album. If this is the last album they ever do, it's okay with me. It's a good way to go out. Even the title, Memento Moir, it's all about death, basically. There's a very strong current of death in this album. And even you can see that the skull on that table there. Oh, and I didn't even mention, let me also dedicate, point out that Andrew Fletcher, the founding member of theirs, died last year, and he gets a nice, what you call it? Dedication, sorry. Can't think of the right word. He gets a nice little dedication there. And so rest in peace, Andrew. But they said the title wasn't because he died, that they'd already thought, might have already thought of it, but it basically means, it's something that they said like back in Roman times, basically something you say to an emperor, Memento Mori, like, hey, we all have to die. We all have a day with the grave, so don't get too ahead of yourself. So, and that is true. And these guys are pushing 60s now, so they know it's coming, and so say we all, right? But anyway, that's my review for the new Depeche Mode. Look for more content from this album. From this station, this channel. I'm hoping basically to delve into my favorite 80s underground type music, especially a lot of Depeche Mode. Probably covering other bands. You know who they are, if you do know. And if you don't know much about 80s music and would like to learn more, because frankly it is probably one of the best eras of music ever, then keep checking back here, and I'll do videos whenever I get the chance. And I thank you for watching.